Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support I received from you. And as always, all the information in my videos is rumors taken from the internet or the street. I'm not saying the information is fact.
Pick your mans up.
Yeah, just because people used to come through shooting us every day. Yeah, this block, words can't even explain, man. Can't even explain.
Yeah, man. Little School Valley, 05, Young Money. Young Money, man. They in the building.
600 boy, LA, man. LA Capone, man. Get it to him, man. OC2 boys, man. Team
Rondo number 9, man. Number 9 shooter, you hear me?
Hey, bitch, you little bitch. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you, hey, I am Brick Squad. Yeah, Brick Squad, what the fuck is you talking about, bro?
You have to be willing to die or go to jail for 100 years if that's the lane that you're stepping in. You have to understand that whether you 15, 16, you got to think like a man. You know what I'm saying?
So don't be in it. Oh, you're not? Why does everybody say you're only 16 years old?
They say what they want to say.
How old
How old are you?
300.
The story of D.rose/600, Part 2. This is the second part of the story of D.rose and 600. Part 1 was largely about the story of Brick City and 600, some of the early murders including Jizzle, Lil Steve, Baldy, Pt2 and ended the whole video with the murder of Dale from STL/EBT in December 2011. In the second part, we get directly into the year 2012. Which was a busy year in the Woodlawn community, not least for 600 and O Block. I will also talk about the bloody war with 051 Young Money, debunked some old D.rose rumors, C-Day and Rondo number 9, the murder of L.A. Capone and the murder of the taxi driver which was the start of the fall of 600. This and much more will be included in this part. We jump right into this story and start with the murder of Shaq from 600, a murder that supposedly kicked off the war between 051 Young Money and 600 which had already laid brewing for a while with shootings but also heavy mockery on social media. Since 600 didn't kill D Streets from 051, Shaq was the first body dropped in the conflict. D Streets, together with Lil Mark, had been involved in the murder of Tony from DHF 46 so much suggests that it was DHF who took revenge and killed him. Rockhead from 051 told the police that the war with 600 started in 2012 while he was locked up. However, he could be lying. All statements in these police reports are not true, but I actually believe him and I don't think he counted the shootings as in when the war started, but rather when the first body was dropped in 2012, Shaq. Anyway, just like I mentioned, the conflict between 051 and 600 had been brewing for a while. There had been shootings, for example, D-Thank from 600 had been shooting at Melly and other members of 051 in 2011. D.rose had also been shooting up 051 together with DHF 46 so it was only a matter of time before the first body would be dropped. On February 2nd, 2012, a cold winter evening, Shaq was brutally killed outside a house party in an alley located in the 5900 block of South Calumet Avenue which is territory belonging to 600. The murder of Shaq would also be the beginning of 051 Melly's murder spree. 20-year-old Shaquille Rush, nicknamed Shaq, had been to a party on the 5900 block of South Calumet Avenue. When he was going home from the party, he first went to pee in an alley outside the party. 051 who for a long time had been lurking and sliding through 600's blocks to avenge D Streets would now get their chance. Melly and Kiddo from 051 were out lurking that night. They spotted Shaq together with a girl in the alley. Melly and Kiddo ran up to Shaq and shot him multiple times in his body and head. Shaq was later found dead on the scene. The girl was also shot and was taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Luckily she was only grazed by the bullet and was able to leave the hospital quickly. Shaq's mother said in an interview that Shaq loved to rap, and would often write lyrics and mix beats on his computer. This was tragically not the first time the family had been hit by Chicago's gang violence. In 1998 Shaq's father, Luther Rush, was shot dead by Marcus Smalley of 7339 East Talman Avenue. Marcus was later convicted of the murder. An interesting detail is that Melly actually lived in 600's territory during this time, 5909 South Calumet to be exact, which is the heart of 600's territory. A few months later, Melly started constantly mocking Shaq on Twitter, where he said, among other things, that Shaq was laying next to that garbage can, smelling like one, to a member from 600. He basically admitted to the murder openly on Twitter for the public to see. Melly even resided in 600's territory while still mocking Shaq, yet 600 could not touch him, even though he became the top priority for 600 after killing Shaq. Melly even wrote, several times, on Twitter, that he lived in their territory. He even wrote to Manny from 600 that he lived in the area and that he went through their neighborhood daily without worries. Melly, who was a black disciple and who had heavy BD connections, therefore had protection when he lived in the area. But that did not stop 600 from trying to kill him, but never managed to catch him during that time. Only 2 weeks after Shaq's murder, Sheroid from a block was murdered, allegedly by Boss Trail from STL/EBT. The reason why I tell this, even though it's not about 600, is because 600 allegedly took revenge on STL/EBT by killing King Doc. However, there are different opinions about who actually killed Doc. I have previously stated in earlier videos that King Von and T-Roy from O Block were involved, which is a rumor I was told. However, many believe that it was 600 and Lamron that did the hit. King Doc, whose real name was Marlon Monroe, also known as King Doc, had just been at his aunt's house and painted. After a few hours of painting, he became thirsty and decided to go to a nearby convenience store to buy something to drink, but he would never have time to enter the store and buy his drink. A car pulled up. Doc saw them and tried to run, but one or two people inside the vehicle started spraying bullets towards him. The bullets caught up to him and he was struck multiple times in his chest and arm. Doc stumbled and fell into a patch of tall weeds in an empty lot that adjoins the corner shop. The police came to investigate the April 28th shooting, cleaned up the scene and took off. His family said it was not until hours later that Doc's body was discovered in the tall weeds. A 16-year-old relative who was in a rush trying to make curfew was crossing through the abandoned lot when he found Doc's lifeless corpse in the 6300 block of South St. Lawrence Avenue. When he was found, he was rushed to John H. Strother Jr. Hospital of Cook County, where he was pronounced dead at 10:14 p.m. King Doc had just returned to the free world after being imprisoned for stealing a car. He got out on parole 2 months before he was killed. Before his death, Doc was trying to get a painter's license and had been doing maintenance for property owned by his aunt. He had received a GED while in prison, his family said. After his jail stint, Doc had been trying to tell younger relatives to avoid a life of crime. He was showing his little brother the path he needed to take, said his aunt, Deborah Jackson, adding that Doc had been looking for a steady job. He said he was ready. He did not want to be in that situation no more, Jackson said. Doc was described as gentle and kind-hearted. He was not in a gang, family members said. The 16-year-old boy who found Marlon was none other than Modell McCambray, who was a cousin of Marlon and whom we will come to later in the story. Modell was cutting through the store parking lot when he stumbled over the body. He ran to tell people that he had found a dead body, and when the police came and turned the body over, Modell saw it was his cousin Marlon Monroe. The two teens came from a large family that is known by most folks on the block because they had lived there for a long time through generations. Florine and John Monroe, the grandparents of Modell, Marlon and also Miles Turner, had raised 6 girls in their home in the 6500 block of South Roads. In the course of more than 30 years, they also raised several of their nearly 40 grandchildren and great-grandchildren in that home. Modell was devastated after the death of his cousin and therefore started to get more involved in the criminal life. He started to hang around people like K.I., Duck and Boss Terrell, and was soon a member of the gang STL/EBT. The murder of Marlon was a nightmare for the grandparents Florine and John. But a few months later the nightmare would worsen further when King Von from a block murdered said Modell and paralyzing his cousin Miles. There are various theories as to who actually killed Doc. Just as I previously stated, one theory suggests that it was O'Block who was behind the murder, specifically King Von and T-Roy. This is a rumor I heard from a source, so I can't really go into what backs it up. However, Beans from Mob stated it in a tweet that it was in fact Wick City that was behind the murder. However, in the police investigation that I requested a few months ago, there were witnesses who stated for the police that King Doc's death was a result of an ongoing conflict between STL/EBT and 600 allied with Lamron. Many therefore speculate that D.Rose from 600 and OJ from Lamron was behind the murder. OJ often rode with 600 members on hits. For example, he allegedly killed Fathead together with CD in the summer of 2012, which we will come to later. There is of course a possibility that all 3 gangs were present, O'Block, 600 and Lamron. It wasn't unusual for those 3 to slide together, especially with OJ and Chubbs from Lamron. This murder is a very hard murder to figure out. There hasn't been a lot of dissing nor somebody claiming the murder, which makes it very difficult to find out who the trigger man actually was. I just wanted to put this out there because D.Rose is certainly one of the members that have been rumored to have been present and maybe even the gunman. Just a fortnight after the assassination of King Doc, it was 051's turn to be targeted for revenge. Namely, 600 was looking for revenge after the murder of Shaq, who was brutally murdered by Kiddo and Melly. One June 22nd, one of Chicago's most infamous hits would go down when 600 together with Lamron slid on 051 Young Money. I'm talking about the murder of Fathead. Antonio Davis, aka Fathead, of the 8000 block of South Eberhard Avenue, was visiting his aunt's home at 70th and Union, which is territory belonging to SMB, who are neighbors to Brick Squad and Low Life. Antonio was walking together with his 22-year-old cousin Erica and decided to walk to the store. They did not think anything of the light-colored van that slowed as it passed them on Union, despite the hard-eyed stares from the people in the car. But Erica recognized a man in a dark hooded sweatshirt as the van's passenger when they encountered him on 69th Street. The one she recognized was Stott from 600, who was allegedly driving the car. The side door on the van opened. OJ and Ct started shooting, which caused Fathead to fall to the ground while Erica ran away in a panic. Ct or OJ then jumped out of the van and walked calmly to the lying Antonio, stood over him, and shot him multiple times in the head. Antonio, who was only 14 years old, was tragically found dead on the scene by police and paramedics. The police report regarding the murder of Fathead was released over a year ago and was over 250 pages long. The investigation revealed 3 names as possible offenders: Ct and S. from 600, and OJ from Lamron. One of the most interesting details from this report is that Ct was actually arrested for this after both leaving fingerprints at the murder scene but also losing his phone, which he later did again after the murder of Javon in 2014. Which he got caught for. Another interesting detail is that OJ actually snitched on Ct for killing Fathead. OJ stated to the police that he heard that it was Ct that killed Fathead and that he himself wasn't present at the murder. For me, it is absolutely incredible that Ct was never charged with this murder due to all the evidence that was available, because how sloppy the hit went down and how much he actually self-snitched after the murder. I also want to close 2 rumors about D.Rose and L.A. Capone being present at the murder. This seems to be false according to the murder report. It was previously rumored that L.A. Capone was the rapper that Erica recognized in the van, but it turned out to be S. The rumor about D.Rose has long been rampant on the internet, but according to the report he was not there. However, it must be said that these reports are not always right about who was there. Something that has been widely speculated about is why Fathead was murdered. There has long been a rumor that Fathead was going around falsely claiming that he was responsible for killing Shaq a few months back. This is false, at least to my knowledge. Him getting killed was most likely random, to the extent that he wasn't killed for a real reason more than that he was a member of 051 Young Money and in an act of revenge for Shaq. The mockery ran rampant on Twitter after Fathead's murder. I don't think I've ever seen as much self-snitching as Ct did around that time. He literally wrote a tweet saying, 608 for when I killed blank, 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 which is the same amount of blanks to spell out Fathead. He literally admitted to the internet that he killed Fathead openly for the public to see. He also wrote other gruesome tweets such as, I'm bored, I'm finna go kill somebody, and, I'm part of the murder rate. There was literally no stopping him. He was even in a Twitter conversation with Fathead's cousin where she first wrote, "Why is Fathead in Ct bio?" which Ct responded with, "I saw some you didn't." This is one of the most gruesome and horrifying conversations when it comes to the Chicago scene. 051 really did not accept this mockery by Ct and was constantly out looking for him. A few weeks after the murder, 051 would get their chance. 051 made an attempt to set up Ct. They made him think he was going to meet someone to buy something. What he was going to buy is unknown, but probably either weapons or drugs. When Ct went to the location to meet up with the person, Montana, Arrow and Melly were waiting in a corner to ambush Ct. As soon as they spotted them, they ran up and started shooting at him. But Ct started running immediately and managed to get away without any injuries. Now we come to the next murder where D.rose have been speculated as one of the shooters involved. I'm talking about the murder of Dirty Rel from Jaro City, which would later lead to the murder of White from a block just a few hours later. On the 8th of August 2012, a day before King Von's birthday, D-Roy, King Von, D.rose and C. Murder were out in traffic on East 56th Street in the Washington Park neighborhood, which is approximately a 5-minute drive from Parkway Gardens. D-Roy, Von, C. Murder and D.rose were not out looking for someone special but just rode around smoking and listening to music. But as always when you are out sliding like this, you are prepared because just like King Von said in an interview, the day you ain't looking for him, you're going to walk into him and you will not have your mask and will not be ready. D-Roy, D.rose and Von could some days be out in the traffic for over 4 hours, just riding around, smoking and listening to music, but they made sure they and the boys they rode with were always ready. D.rose had a very good relationship with both of them. They had their guns and had their masks in case they would unexpectedly bump into an enemy where they didn't think they would see him. Anyways, back to the incident. D.rose and the others saw Dirty Rel walking on the sidewalk. One of them, possibly D.rose, pulled out a gun and shot him multiple times, with one bullet striking him in the chest, 2 in the back, 1 to his right side. Dirty Rel, whose real name was Daryl Joshua, was taken to John H. Strowger Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Dirty Rel was an older member from Jaro City. According to the police, Terrell had past gang ties but that he had left that life behind him and moved to Peoria. The police said it is unclear why Joshua was in Chicago on this day. The retaliation would come soon after the murder of Dirty Rel. Both Jaro and STL got hurt after the murder of Rel, Wooski from STL/EBT and 50 Shots from Jaro City, who was really close friends and were the two who really held Jaro City and STL/EBT together, decided to go to Parkway to try to retaliate immediately on a block. Usually, when the other side tries to retaliate this fast, it's without success or they succeed but someone gets caught and has to spend the rest of their life in jail. This is because the police, in most cases, directly receive the information about which gang was involved in the murder and are therefore prepared in case a quick retaliation would come against the block that was involved in the murder. In this case, police knew about a block's involvement in the murder of Dirty Rel, just like they knew after the murder of FBG Duck. Therefore they decided to post up with cars and officers around Parkway Gardens, just like after the murder of Duck. Wooski and 50 Shots knew about this but decided to take the risk anyway. They went to East 63rd Street and South Martin Luther King Drive and spotted White outside of a store. King Von was with him and had just bought him a pill of some sort. Then Von went into the store, and when Von was in the store, 50 Shots and Wooski took the opportunity to score. 50 Shots shot him in his chest once, but what they did not know was that police officers were patrolling exactly that street. The police officers saw when 50 Shots shot White in the chest, and when they came to the scene, 50 Shots started to shoot at the officers without hitting any of them. However, the officers returned fire and shot 50 Shots in his leg, but the two still managed to flee the scene. 50 Shots was later arrested and charged with the murder and is still awaiting trial. After the assassination of D.rose and the swift revenge on O'Block, months of shootings and killings awaited. At the end of August 2012, Jaja from Jaro City was murdered by a Mexican named Alan Padilla. This murder was completely random. Alan basically walked up to the first black man he saw, which happened to be Jaja, and killed him in front of his mother. According to the police report, this was an action by Alan in an attempt to join a Mexican gang in Chicago. The reason I bring this up is because Jaja was present when Lil B and Pt2 killed Jizzle from Squirt Town. He was very hated by 600 and O'Block, not only for being present at the murder, but also for getting into several fights him. There is also a rumor that D.rose should have killed a member by the name of Lil Doc from No Love City just 4 days after D.rose was killed, but this is false. I have talked to the people involved and it was not D.rose. Lil Doc was killed while trying to hit a lick. There is also a rumor that D.rose, together with Rondo No. 9, killed an older man by the name of Sean in May 2012. This is also false. There was a guy that was named Sean who was killed that month in Jaro territory, but he wasn't Jaro City or any other gang for that matter, and D.rose nor Rondo killed him. I just wanted to put that out there because D.rose got a lot of bodies falsely put on him only because of his reputation. Just days later another murder took place, and this time it was the 600, D.rose specifically, who was heavily involved. I am of course talking about the murder of the man who put the GDs on the map, the one who created the BDK movement, the face of the other side, the 18-year-old rapper Lil Jojo from Brick Squad. On September 4th, at 6:13 to be precise, a tweet came from Lil Jojo, a tweet that would cause devastating consequences, not only for Jojo but for the future as well. Of course I'm talking about the tweet where Jojo gave away his location openly for the public to see. "I'm on 069. I'm out here," he wrote. As soon as Lamron, SMG, O'Block, Lowlife and 600 saw the tweet, they quickly got together and got into 3 cars. They knew there was a risk of only bringing 1 car because you have to remember this, just because you are given a location, it's not easy to just come and kill. The main thing in wars like this is to play defense, flipping cars that try to slide and not moving sloppy to give the enemies any chance to catch you. The risk when a member releases their location is that they are prepared for someone to slide and are therefore already ready with weapons to shoot back. Therefore, 600, Lowlife, O'Block and SMG chose to come with 3 cars, filled with top members from the different sets, each set wanting to be the ones catching him. 2 of the members present at the murder were D.rose and Pt2 from SMG. These 2 members were very close with each other since Pt2 took him under his wing in late 2011. Almost exactly 1 hour after Jojo released his location, at 7:30 to be exact, he was sitting on the front handlebars of a bike, which was cycled by Dez from Brick Squad, on 69th Street and Princeton Avenue. The video footage from the murder scene was recently released on Reddit. In the video, you can see Dez and Jojo riding the bike in the middle of the street while 3 cars are trailing them. You can also see Jojo looking back once or twice at the cars, probably in panic of what is about to happen. I can't even imagine what went through his head at that moment. Imagine getting followed by 3 cars that want you dead. It must have been pure horror. According to the murder report, the 3 cars were actually seen once before the murder, circulating the area, looking for Jojo. The second time they came around, they spotted him. The video footage does not show the actual murder since the camera was facing the other direction. Once the cars came close to Jojo and Dez, they jumped off the bike and ran in two different directions. Dez ran down the street where the cars came from while Jojo ran in the opposite direction, the direction the vehicles were facing. Lil Jojo did his absolute best to get out of danger, but unfortunately, the bullets caught up to him. Lil Jojo got hit once in the lower back, but he was still running, which caused the bullet to travel up to his heart, which in turn caused him to collapse in front of the stop sign located at 70th and Eggleston as he was trying to run around the corner, which is exactly behind where the camera was located. Lil Jojo was found unresponsive around 9 p.m. with a gunshot wound and was tragically later pronounced dead at the University of Chicago Medical Center. There are several different theories as to who actually killed JoJo, and I'm going to go through all of them. One thing you have to remember is that there were a lot of people on that hit since it was 3 cars. I do not know if each car was full, but my guess is that the driver was not alone. At first, rumors abounded that Lil Reese, Frito, Lil Durk and Chief Keef were involved in the murder, since they were the ones who beefed with JoJo openly on Twitter, and also wrote taunting tweets immediately after the murder. These rumors are of course false to my knowledge. They were most likely involved in the background, since they were the people with the money, fame, and had personal beef with JoJo, especially Lil Reese, who could have died the same day if JoJo really was out to kill him. It really does not look good to say, "I will kill you," and only 2 hours later the person in question is murdered. But as I said, these rumors are false. JoJo's mother even said in an interview that she doesn't believe Chief Keef pulled the trigger, but that he paid someone to kill her son. However, if that is true or not, I don't know. Another rumor that began to flourish fairly quickly after the murder was that it was KK from Lamron, Frito from Front Street, D.rose from 600 and Pt2 from SMG who was behind the murder. Of these names, 3 I have heard have allegedly been present at the murder, and they are Pt2 from SMG, D.rose from 600 and KK from Lamron. The main reason why Pt2 has been implicated in the murder is partly due to self-snitching. He is still dissing him on social media to this day, but also because of Chief Keef mentioning him in songs. In the song War by Chief Keef, which was released in early 2014, he rapped, "All these damn frenemies, I'm a call up Pt2 man." A fan on Twitter also asked Chief Keef who Pt2 man is, in which he responded with, "069. Pt2 from SMG is a known shooter and killer. In addition to being involved in the murder of Lil JoJo, it is also rumored that he was involved in the brutal double murder on OJ from Jaro City/Del Mob, and Lil D from Met Boys in 2010. The reason why KK from Lamron/Daytown has been rumored to be involved is because he was actually murdered just 2 weeks after he appeared in a video, taunting Lil JoJo immediately after the murder. According to sources to the police, the murder of KK was an immediate response by Brick Squad. However, many members of Daytown have implied that it was Shields and not Brick Squad who was behind the murder of KK, which is true is difficult to know. The name from Brick Squad who has been rumored to be involved in the murder of KK is Mussolina, one of Brick Squad's top killers. From the beginning, the KK rumor came from a Facebook post by Pt2 from Front Street where he said, "JoJo thought the same thing until he saw D.rose, Frito and Kiki pull up on him boom boom." However, Pt2 later stated that his Facebook was hacked, and Frito also said it was fake and of course denied being involved. Now, however, we come to the theory that I think is most believable, and that is fairly new, at least when it comes to one of the names, and that is Loico from Low Life, and now I'm talking purely about who pulled the trigger. I actually think all of them were present. Loico, who claimed Low Life, passed away in 2021 due to natural causes, and after his death, several Brick Squad members began mocking him and honoring Lil JoJo, which usually means his killer is dead. There is also a Facebook post by Louis from a block in which he mentioned a bunch of murders where he gave shout out to each set who was responsible. In the post he wrote, "F Lil JoJo, shout out Low Life," implying it was Low Life who killed JoJo and not Pt2 from SMG as many have previously believed, even if I still think he was present. Loico was one of Low Life's top members. He was also very close with several O-Block members such as Boss Top and King Von, and have appeared in several music videos recorded in O-Block, Computers by Boss Top for example. In addition to Lil JoJo, it is also rumored that Loico was the killer of Hussey from Brick Squad/JJ Gang in January 2017. 2 other people who have long been rumored to be involved are J Money and Ray Rilla from O-Block. where the laughter has a tattoo that says Joe York. The rumor about J Money being present came from a tweet by him in October 2012 where he wrote, "I'm sending shots, Jojo Killa, I started the noise, little do you know." The last name I will mention, which is the name that is actually mentioned most of all in the name, which is the whole reason I mention this murder, is of course D.rose from 600. It's pretty much guaranteed that D.rose were present at the murder, because only a week later he was actually brought in for questioning since the police felt they actually had actual leads and proof that he was present. However, D.rose was later released for lack of evidence and because D.rose most likely did not say a word. The day after the murder, fans speculated that D.rose pulled the trigger. To come to some kind of summary and conclusion of what I have heard from various sources of who I think is most believable to have been present at the murder, there are 6 names. D.rose from 600, Kiki from T-Town/Lamron, Loico from Low Life, Pt2 from SMG, and Ray Rilla and J Money from O Block. Just as expected, there were no limits on the mockery after Lil Jojo's death, not least by D.rose, Lil Reese, Chief Keef, King Von, J Money, Pt2, Ray Rilla and several other Lamron, SMG, Low Life, THF46, RB600 and Front Street members. He was basically mocked by all the BD gangs, which wasn't a surprise since he literally created the BDK movement. Even G Herbo and multiple other members from No Limit mocked him after his death. I will just let the tweets and pictures speak for themselves.
Terrible.
Man, my nigga Moody gonna be Lil JoJo for Halloween.
I get on the JoJo bill.
Hey, who you gonna be for Halloween this year? JoJo.
Can I get on the JoJo?
D.rose's name was literally immortalized after the murder of Lil Jojo. His name was mentioned everywhere as the most savage and reckless killer all over social media and in songs. Just a month after Lil Jojo's murder, Chief Keef released the song, Love Sosa, where he mentioned D.rose with the iconic line, "Don't make me call D.rose, boy, he's 600, boy, and he kept that pole boy, you gon' get F-ed over." Many forget this, but D.rose has also been featured on several songs with members from Folly Boys and 600. For example, he was featured in the song, 6-0, with Ide and Cide, which was released the day I was killed. Is also featured on legendary songs such as Choppa and Zeko Pack with Lil Herb, Boss Top and Rondo No. 9. I won't sit here and lie that D.rose's verses were fire, but it really is a legendary piece of history despite the music not being well produced, but that's part of the charm. Many people don't understand this, but D.Rose is really famous all over the world for having been Chief Keef's main shooter, which is of course not true. It was not like he belonged to Chief Keef, but still, and D.Rose was not even 18 once he got picked up for the Big V murder. D.Rose is mentioned in several other songs as well, not least by Chief Keef. They really took advantage of his name, so it is quite sad to see how they have now left him in prison. Just days after the murder of Lil Jojo, D.Rose was arrested and charged with a robbery where D.Rose, or the other offender, Juice from Front Street, shot the victim in the leg and then fled the scene. Who the victim was or why D.Rose and Juice did this is unknown. The only thing they managed to get was $25 and a cell phone. Then they shot him and fled the scene. To me this seems like a very unnecessary robbery. All robberies are unnecessary of course, but this robbery was really completely pointless considering how little valuables they got away with. Why they shot the victim is also very strange unless it was an enemy, in which case I find it hard to believe that they would leave him alive. The whole situation is very strange, and D.Rose was later arrested and received a long sentence despite his young age at the time, 16. D.Rose was in juvenile detention until his 17th birthday on June 10, 2013. Then he was transferred to the county where was locked up until January 16, 2014. D.Rose was thus locked up for over a year and missed the whole 2013. Juice was of course charged together with D.Rose as well. In the county, D.Rose apparently got beat up by his cellmate and got his tooth chipped. This means that we are now leaving D.Rose for a while as he is locked up and moving on to other members. However, we will of course talk about D.Rose again as he showed no mercy whatsoever once he got out. A month after JoJo's murder, as you know, Model from STL/EBT was murdered by King Von from a block. In the past it has been rumored that L.A. Capone and other members were at the scene of the murder, but it seems to be false as witnesses only stated D-Roy and King Von as offenders at the scene, with King Von being the only one shooting. However, L.A. Capone would be involved in a shooting and murdered that same month. At the end of October 2012, a shooting outside a school took place, and just a few days later, P5 from Jaro City would get brutally killed. Just 2 weeks after the murder of Model, King Von was responsible for another shooting together with 3 members from 600, Mikado, M-Thang and L.A. Capone, this time outside a school. Everyone by now probably heard King Von's lyrics in the song, Wait, where he said, I shot up Dunbar with L.A., M-Thang and Mikado. What many do not know is the exact story behind that line of text. The line stemmed from when a couple of Brick Squad members jumped blast his ass in tricks from 600 on October 24, 2012. L.A. Capone, M-Thang, Mikado and King Von got a call about it and pulled up to Dunbar. The first Brick Squad member they spotted outside the shoe, who happened to be CJ, Von shot at, without hitting anyone, and then they all bailed out. There were many on Twitter who mocked 600 after this shooting, as they claimed that 600 only let off one shot from a .22 caliber gun. Block, especially King Von, still wanted revenge on Jaro City after the murder of White White, so did J Money. but because of a girl that both P5 and J Money were interested in. Her name is Lisa and was in several relationships. She was the mother of J Money's son, but she was also with P5, also known as Crack. She was also close to other members from Jaro City and also 051 Young Money members. Arrow, for example. There are also rumors that she was in a relationship with D.rose. Recently she was in a super toxic relationship with Rio from KTS before he got gunned down. P5 was a big drug dealer from Jaro City. He made a lot of money and J Money wanted him badly because of Lisa, and since King Von wanted a member from Jaro just as bad, they decided to set up P5 and kill him. There are many who complain that I paint all this as a game. I don't. They refer to it as a game and I tell you about it. I will tell what I mean by it. One day before the murder of P5, King Von tweeted, "I ain't been hanging out with D.rose like that, because he's been winning. I gotta catch up first, give me to Friday LOL." This proves a lot, and King Von is not the only one who treated the war like a game. Most of the members do, at least on social media. King Von already had 2 bodies at this time, which means that D.rose at least had 3 already at the age of 18. The day after that tweet, on D.rose's birthday, Von did catch up, and did it together with L.A. Capone and J Money. J Money and King Von came up with a plan to trick 23-year-old Derek Johnson into making him think that he was going to meet someone who wanted to buy drugs from him on the 6200 block of South Eberhard Avenue, which is Jaro City's main territory. P5 agreed to meet up with the person he thought came to buy drugs at 9:13 a.m., but instead he was greeted with an ugly surprise. The people he saw were King Von, J Money, Big A, L.A. Capone and Manny from 600. As soon as he saw them he started running, but unfortunately J Money caught up with him and shot him in his back. P5 fell to the ground, but the OB 600 members did not stop there. They all stood over him and shot him 6 times in his face and 9 times in his body. It was a really ugly and dirty kill. After they were done, they pretty much left him there without a face and 9 holes in his body. And when paramedics and police arrived at the crime scene, they had a hard time identifying the body. It was that ugly. Derek was taken to John H. Strotcher Jr. Hospital of Cook County, where he was pronounced dead. It came out pretty quickly who had killed P5. It did not take long before J Money started taunting both P5 and his ex on Twitter. J Money tweeted things like, "45 hit his dreadlocks," and, "P5 you got some weed. That's crazy that you sleep." The 2 tweets came only 3 days after the murder of P5, and the same day as J Money tweeted this, he was subjected to an assassination attempt. J Money drove around by himself in traffic around King Drive and FBG, but caught him in traffic and shot up his car without hitting J Money, and J Money managed to speed away from the scene. J Money continued to mock P5 after this incident and basically admitted on Twitter that he killed him when he wrote "I got crack." Manny, King Von and L.A. Capone also went on Twitter to mock P5 by tweeting how many bullets he caught and that OB 600 is up. Von also made it very clear that he was not done yet when he tweeted, "I'm starting to feel bad for the ops, because on that lady I'm coming and coming and coming. D.rose is coming also. and the whole block 600 coming too. King Von had now caught 2 bodies and shot 3 people in the same month, which can be a reason why King Von in the song, Armed and Dangerous, said, "People dying the whole October, the real Halloween." L.A. Capone made several disrespectful tweets. Among other things, he wrote, "I saw a dude get holes all in his face, hit the ground and got more holes in his face, then his shit was gushing out." The day after the murder of P5 from Jaro City, it was 600's turn to lose a member, Trix. Trix was shot dead while sitting in his car in the 5700 block of South Prairie Avenue, allegedly by Kiddo from 051 Young Money. However, many members from 600 such as Cide and Rondo No. 9 claimed that Trix wasn't a member but just an innocent bystander. Cide even took it as far as saying, "F Trix," despite hanging with him only days before his death. Most of the other 600 members were respectful and paid homage, but also pointed out that he was not a member. 2 weeks after the murder, it was time for 600 and O Block to score together. Before we get to that, I just want to shut down one more rumor. It has long been speculated that D.rose was involved in the murder of Big Meech from 50 Strong, but it is false as D.rose was locked up at the time. As you have probably noticed, there are many bodies that have falsely been put on D.rose due to his name and reputation. To my knowledge, D.rose has been involved in 4 or 5 murders at most. What you have to remember is that D.rose had not even turned 18 when the police took him off the street. He was very young when he put in the most work. As I said, only 2 weeks after the murder of Trix, O Block and 600 would catch a body together. King Von, T-Roy, Bite Down and Blast His Ass were out looking for a guy called Lil James, or Baby J. James was an older GD member who many believed was a member of Mob because he was shot in Mob territory. Which said he actually claimed is pretty unknown. A lot of people saying that he claimed M-Town, which is the set together with Von World who eventually formed Mob. However, James was from 071 and even called himself Baby Joe 71, which was also his name on Instagram. The set that houses on 68th to 71st, Wentworth to Lafayette, is Tay City, who James was really close with, and many members from Tay City attended his funeral, which I will come to later. James was a big trapper and was close with a lot of M-Town and mob members, which explains why he was in mob territory when he was killed. A cousin to James even tweeted, "Lost my lil cousin James because Moggs thought he was in an op neighborhood that was not his own." As I said, James was a big trapper, not a shooter nor a killer. He made huge money from trapping and wasn't shy of showing it off on his open Instagram, where he posted pictures of money, clothes and cars. James was cool with a lot of sets and a lot of people around the city, which can explain why over 1,200 people attended his funeral. On November 19, 2012, Von D.rose, blast his ass and bite down, decided to go try to catch James lacking and rob him. They got a drop on his address where he lived, the 6000 block of South Michigan Avenue. They went to the address and spotted James, but he was not by himself, he was with several other guys. As soon as James and the others saw bite down, D.rose blast his ass and Von. At least one tried to pull out their guns, but it was too late. The OB-600 all had guns on them and had already raised them on the group of people outside of the apartment building. They started spraying bullets at them and James was sadly struck in the right forearm and chest. Luckily, no one else was injured in the shooting. The OB-600 member bailed out immediately and headed back to 600's territory. James was rushed to Holy Cross Hospital, where he was later tragically pronounced dead. 7 days after the murder, it was time for James' funeral. The funeral got shot up and 2 people from Tay City were killed, Sherman and Deontay. To my knowledge, O-Block and 600 were not responsible for this, even though they are quite famous for shooting up funerals. We now leave 2012 and instead enter the year 2013, which was a very bad year for 600, and also in some way the beginning of the fall of 600 due to the loss of L.A. Capone. However, we will start in April 2013. Charles, whose real name was Charles Bush, was an alleged member of mob who was killed by 600 on April 3, 2013. Charles, 33, was walking eastbound on 59th Street when he said something to someone inside a black minivan. The minivan then pulled over and someone from inside the van ran out and fired 2 shots at Charles. Charles was shot in the abdomen and lower torso and was taken in critical condition to John H. Striger Jr. Hospital of Cook County, where he later died. After the person fired the shots, the person ran south and jumped back into the van, which then fled. The member who jumped out and fired the shots was allegedly the rapper Pt2, who today is very close with Lil Durk. A person was also arrested for this murder and I highly suspect it was Pt2. I have requested the murder report and waited several weeks for it, but still haven't got it yet. After this murder, it was quite quiet out on the streets for a while. Most of the outstanding members from 600 and O-Block was locked up at the time. However, a few months later, we arrive at the month of September, the month where O-Block first lost one of their top members, J Money, and then 600 lost their most high-profile member and rapper, L.A. Capone. On September 2nd, 2013, O Block would tragically lose one of their most beloved members, and to quote Lil Twon from Taekwon World, Lil B would give P5 the best birthday gift. It has long been speculated that J Money was set up by a girl when he was killed, and that K.I. was one of the killers along with Lil B. However, almost all of this is false except that Lil B was actually the killer. However, some people like Mona from A Block claim J Money was with a girl named Smokey when he was killed. However, this does not seem to be true, at least when looking through police documents. Much of the information in the report is redacted in black to protect witnesses and other valuable information. In the report, it was mentioned that J Money was together with Prince Dre and Dog when they drove to the 6600 block of South Rhodes Avenue to do laundry. At the same time, Lil B was with at least one other person in the car. The driver, who is unknown, drove up next to J Money's car in traffic, and Lil B was hiding in the car to then peek to get a glimpse to see if it really was J Money in the car. They then followed J Money's car and the driver dropped off Lil B on 66th and Rhodes, where Lil B went behind a house, went through a gangway and started blowing with his 9mm Luger at J Money, who was loading his laundry in his car with Dog while Prince Dre was in the car. As soon as the shots started to pop off, J Money started running. Lil B ran after him, shooting in his direction. Sadly, J Money got it in the lower body and fell to the ground. He got up and tried to flee into an alley, but Lil B was still on his heels. He continued blasting at J Money, and now he hit more serious shots on J Money. He was hit in the chest several times, one of which went out how his mouth went, and finally one that hit J Money right in the forehead. The whole thing about J Money was stood over and was shot 4 times in the grill, as Wooski stated in his song Computers, is completely false, and probably only meant as a mockery. J Money, 21, whose real name was Jerome Wood, was sadly pronounced dead on the scene once the paramedics arrived. What is also mentioned in the documents is that once the shots started ringing in the air, Dog allegedly jumped in the driver's seat and drove off from the scene together with Prince Dre. However, the names Prince Dre and Dog are not mentioned. The identifications are puzzled together by date of birth, descriptions, along with the fact that Prince Dre said in a song that he witnessed J Money die. The police report confirmed in several places that Race and Lil B Shaw was the suspected sole shooter in the murder of J Money. The documents also reveal that King Lil J and FBG Butta provided information about the murder, and that they have heard that Lil B was the suspected killer. What is really revealing when you read all these documents is how many actually snitched to the police. There really are any number of people in all the gangs in Chicago. There is no gang where no one has snitched. I just want to make that clear. For example, Face from 600 snitched, which will come to later in the story. What is also revealing in the documents is that the same weapon used in the murder of J Money was used only a little less than 2 weeks in a shooting on Front Street where 6 members were arrested, one of them Lil B. As most of you already know, J Money was one of the older and more respected members of O Block. He had been in the game even before Wick City. He was allegedly involved in multiple murders and shot people like 50 Shot, Torrance, and Rel from Jaro City, and Boomin from STL/EBT. He was really putting in a lot of work and was one of O'Block's top members. After his death, O'Block adopted the nickname Money Gang, or OBMG, to honor his memory. J Money is also the reason why several members today have Munna in their name, such as Munna Duke and Ocho Munna. A lot of people were after Lil B after the murder of J Money. He was close with gang like Lamron, THF46, 600 and O'Block, who were all prepared to slide in his name. Before we get to the murder of L.A. Capone, there is a murder to tell about that Rondo No. 9 was allegedly involved in. Rondo, who was originally from Risky Road, was hanging out with Mackie and BT from Risky Road. Suddenly, some ops came through and started shooting. Mackie ran away while Rondo produced a handgun and started returning fire. After the shooting, Mackie came back and BT was laying dead on the ground in front of Rondo No. 9. When Mackie asked Rondo what happened, Rondo told him that he killed BT by accident while trying to return fire on the shooters. Rondo then told Mackie to tell the gang that it was the ones who came through shooting that killed him. Things like this happen all the time in Chicago. It's very easy to happen. Pluto from Lamron was killed in the same way, for example. Just a week later, what happened would begin the demise of 600. On September 26, 2013, 051 would score 600 for the third time. It was the day that L.A. Capone's career in life would come to an end. L.A. Capone was set up by 757 Hard Knock, who was in the same studio as him, gave the drop on L.A. Capone's location to 051 Young Money members. Rockhead, Lil Mick, Big A and Mako got on it immediately, waited until L.A. Capone came out of the studio, and then Lil Mick ran up to him and shot him in his right thigh and lower back. He was rushed to the Northwestern Memorial Hospital where he later was pronounced dead. The leg L.A. Capone was shot in was the exact same leg that Boss Trell had shot him in a year before his death, which could be the reason why L.A. Capone never made it. Lil Mick, Rockhead and Mako were later all arrested and later convicted of the murder despite the attempts of cutting off Lil Mick's dreadlocks to confuse the police. Big A from 051 was the only one present at the murder who was not charged with the murder. However, she would meet a terrible fate because about 2 months later, Westbrook, Dre Money and Bezu from THF46 allegedly killed Big A from 051 Young Money with multiple shots to the face. I don't think many people understand how much of an impact the murder of L.A. Capone had on the 600 as a whole. He was literally their ticket out. He was one of the most talented rappers in the city. He was the face of 600. He was best friends with Rondo, C-Day, Capone, and D.Rose. And what many forget is that L.A. Capone actually had a body under his belt. He put in real work on the streets. Capone even stated in his song way back that he was out looking for Lil Mick's mother. There is even a rumor that Lil Durk slid with Rondo and C-Day before they got locked up. Many also forget that Lil Durk was very close to L.A. Capone, C-Day, Rondo and them. His death affected him heavily. The murder of L.A. Capone would really be the start of the 600's downfall. It is almost difficult to describe the impact his death had on 600, but the incidents afterwards speak for themselves. The whole 600 would implode within months due to his death. At the end of 2013, DYMB would fall out with Lamron, 600, THF 46 and O Block after Pt2 from Lamron was accidentally killed by Ivory from TYMB. However, even though most people think it was by mistake, many felt differently after hearing reports that Pt2 was shot in the back while sitting in the front seat of a car. After the murder, both sides began to sneak diss each other. Lil Reese from Lamron went on Twitter and wrote, "I'm die for both sides for Pt2," and recently, in the song Crossroads, Lil Durk rapped, "Pt2 would still be alive if he ain't hung with strangers," which to me and many others makes it sound like it wasn't an accident. After the song was released, Courtney from TYMB went out on social media and said that Durk is lucky to be alive and that his time is running out. Other TYMB members like Big Dre and Jitta have also mocked Lil Durk several times. 600 and O Block basically fell out with DYMB due to their relations with DHF 46 and Lamron. A lot of O Block and 600 members started to drop the Ys for TYMB. Then TYMB started to say FOD and that Obama is the real O. However, Moneyman from TYMB actually did not support this split since he was very good friends with Prince Dre and had a lot of respect for him. Another member who didn't pick sides was D.Rose from 600, who was very close with both sides. In the end, D.Rose actually got a lot of respect for not picking a side and staying neutral in the conflict. Now we have come to the year 2014. On January 16th, D.Rose was released into the free world, and just 1 month later King Von was released. Two outstanding members that couldn't wait to get out and get back for their friends who were killed while they were in jail. A lot of ops were hoping to catch them before they could drop more bodies, but both would get out and score big, with D.Rose allegedly killing Lil Mark from 051 Young Money, and King Von killing K.I. However, before we get to the murder of Lil Mark, there is another murder to tell about, namely the murder of Big V, which would later lead to D.Rose getting life in prison. Chicago police said that Wenzel Richardson, 14, also known as Big V, was walking with 3 to 5 other teens in the 6100 block of South Vernon Avenue about 8:20 p.m. February 12, 2014. A white van pulled up and a gunman inside opened fire. Richardson, who was walking home from a convenience store, was shot in the head and died on the scene. The people who are rumored to have been in the van were D.Rose, C-Day and Lil Boo from 600 and Lil Loss from Front Street. According to Demona Y, 13 years old, who cooperated with the police, it was D.Rose who shot Big V from inside the van. He recognized D.Rose from social media and Chief Keef videos. However, there is much that does not match that reputation, which I will get to a little later. The friends Big V was walking with were TB, D-Money, Mook, Xi and White Mike from Taekwon World. Big V got shot in the head right in front of them. TB and the others luckily managed to dodge the bullets and the van drove off. Only 2 weeks after the murder of Wenzel, it was Ct and Rondo No. 9's turn to commit a murder which would cause them both to get life in prison. Of course, I'm talking about the murder of the taxi driver Javon. On the night of February 22, 2014, Ct, Rondo, Pt2, Memo's little sister and one other girl were in a van, supposedly the same van that was used in the murder of Big V. They later spotted a car parked on the street. Rondo and Ct jumped out of the van and walked up to the car. One of them asked where the man in the car was from, and then Ct produced a handgun and shot Javon to death. At first there were many rumors that this murder was an act of revenge for the murder of L.A. Capone and that Javon set him up. But that's of course false. This was a random murder. Javon was a former member from Pt2 but was no longer active in that life and started working as a taxi driver, which makes the whole thing so tragic. Once Ct and Rondo No. 9 were arrested and charged a few weeks later, the two girls in the car snitched on Ct by stating for the police that Ct killed Javon Boyd. Memo's sister was one of the two girls who snitched on Ct. This is why Ct doesn't like Memo. In addition to the snitching, Ct both dropped his phone at the scene and left fingerprints at the car, which was more than enough evidence for the police to convict him. Ct got sentenced to 38 years in prison while Rondo got sentenced to 39 years in prison, which is weird because Ct was the one doing the killing and leaving evidence, while Rondo didn't leave any DNA evidence at all. Rondo most likely went down due to the snitching. Just a few weeks before D.rose would be arrested for the murder of Big V, he managed to kill one of 051's most high-profile members and the one who put them on the map, Lil Mark. On March 25, 2014, just 3 days before Lil Mark was shot to death, Lil Mark released his most famous and acclaimed song No Competition, which is a remix of Lil Durk's song Competition, featuring Lil Reese, where he dissed Brick Squad, Wagga World and King Lil J. Lil Mark's remix of the song was an even more disrespectful song in which he mocked several deceased members from 600, Lamron and a block such as L.A. Capone, Tasky, O.D., Baldy, Trix, Lil Rob and D-Thang. This song was of course a big part of why he was killed. It was no coincidence that he was killed 3 days after the song was released. Though Lil Mark was not only a rapper, he was one of 051's top members and was rumored to have killed Tony from Pt2 in 2011 together with D Streets from 051 Young Money. The song that Lil Mark released got a lot of attention in Chicago and many got angry and he made himself a big target. Because neither 600, O Block nor Th46 could kill those responsible for L.A. Capone's death, because they were in prison and because they never managed to catch either Melly or Kiddo, who were also on top of the list for the BDs. Lil Mark became their highest priority instead, a rapper for a rapper, or as Lil Durk said in the song 1773 Vulture, if we cannot find you, we gon' kill your artist. On March 28, 2014, Lil Mark would tragically suffer the same fate as his brother Tuka, be shot and killed at a bus stop. The question is why Lil Mark was standing there that day, because 2 days before he was close to getting caught at the exact same bus stop by basically the same people who would catch him exactly 2 days later. That day, Lil Mark escaped with a hair's breadth after King Bun from a block, Twilla and Rome from Th46 almost put him away for good. 2 days later, Lil Mark sadly did not have the same luck. As I said, 2 days later they got rid of Lil Mark for real. Mark was standing at a bus stop at 1:27 p.m. on the 300 block of East 51st Street. Some members of Lexville spotted Lil Mark at the bus stop and gave THF-46 the location. THF-46, who was already in traffic with members from Folly Boys, 600 block, immediately got on it and drove to the location and spotted him. The people who were in the car were allegedly Twila from THF-46, D.rose from 600, 5-Star from Folly Boys, and T-Roy and King Von from a block. They pulled up next to the bus stop and Twila jumped out at the minivan and started shooting at Lil Mark with a gun equipped with extended mags. Meanwhile, King Von and D.rose allegedly shot from inside the silver minivan. Lil Mark started running immediately as the van pulled up. The first couple of shots shattered the glass at the bus stop, but the other shots hit Lil Mark in the head. They then sped away from the scene and fled north and then west. The minivan, which actually belonged to D.rose, was later found in flames about 6:30 p.m. in the 3700 block of South Ellis Avenue. Several shell casings from different guns were recovered on the scene, and a witness to the shooting said he saw one man jumping out of the van and began firing shots at the man who stood at the bus stop. Whose bullets actually hit is impossible to know. All three who have been singled out as the alleged shooters have basically credited themselves with the body. Just hours after the murder, D.rose tweeted, "I'm going in, ain't gotta ask who shot him," along with, "Marco what I'm smoking on, Marco Pack." King Von tweeted, "Smoke op, now we're back at it," along with a couple of DIY tweets and a tweet indicating that he was one of the people who let off shots. King Von has also mocked Lil Mark several times throughout his rap career, one time where he said, "Caught that boy right by the bus, this is his last stop." Twila has also mocked Lil Mark multiple times, one of which was when he went back to the location where Lil Mark was killed and posed for a photo. What is even more shocking is that just hours after the murder, D.rose, T-Roy and King Von went back to the crime scene to film and mock Lil Mark. The body was no longer there, but still, the disrespect had no limits. Just a week or so after the murder of Lil Mark, D.rose got picked up by police for the murder of Big V, which occurred a month earlier. Just as I mentioned earlier, it was D-Money from Taekwon World that snitched on D.rose as he recognized his face from music videos. However, I actually believe D.rose was innocent. Everyone I've talked to said the same thing, and I'm talking about people very close to him. They all say he's innocent. According to insider sources, it was also Big V's sister that snitched on D.rose as she recognized the jacket on the shooter. That jacket belongs to D.rose, but the thing is that somebody else had his jacket on at the time of the shooting, not D.rose. While the murder took place, D.rose was with his cousin in an apartment, which means he's most likely innocent unless I was fed with wrong information, but even the enemies say he didn't do it. And according to initiated sources, it was neither C-Day, Lil Boo, Rondo nor Lil Loss from Front Street. What bothers me is that I actually didn't get the name of the shooter since he's alive and outside in the free world. but I was told that the shooter wore that exact jacket in one of the music videos released around that time. D.Rose was sentenced to 40 years in prison. He is steadily working on getting an appeal. Despite D.Rose putting in all this work and letting the rappers use his name for clout and songs, his friend really left him in jail. Rose even went to trial with a public defender and would probably beat the case if he had a good lawyer. Buka 600 also did him very dirty when he first gave D.Rose's mother appeal money but later came and took it back. The whole gang left him there. It's only a few people left that D.Rose really likes. With this story coming to an end, I just want to finish off this story by saying something. I usually don't give my own opinion in these stories, but I can't help thinking that D.Rose was really used as a send-off for these people. I feel like Chief Keef and the rest of 600 used D.Rose because they knew he was down for anything. Let me know what y'all think about that. With L.A. Capone dead, C-Day, D.Rose and Rondo No. 9 locked up for life, 600 was slowly falling apart bit by bit. You could almost say that the 600 had already imploded at this point. However, Lil Boo, Bite Down and other outstanding 600 members were still out there, but that's for part 3. This was the second part of the story of D.Rose and 600. In the next part, I will go through the more present 600 from the year 2015 onwards. Rest in peace to all who have lost their lives in gang violence. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.